Okay, there you go. Sensitive subject matter, obviously, but here we go. We got the observed counts and the expected counts I got out of the calculator in matrix B. I got a chi-squared statistic of 47.2 from my calculator, and the calculator gave me a p-value that looked like this. It said E negative 11, of course. We should be used to that by now, but that's a whole bunch of zeros there. And I think we saw that one coming for the subject matter of this problem. Reject the null hypothesis. Gender and body image are definitely not independent variables according to this data, right? Let's move on and go to the last page. Keep in mind the difference. This is, I think, really the only trick for you guys today is learning how to write the hypotheses and then telling which one is which. So keep in mind, I'm repeating myself here, I think, but I just want to try and get the point across to you. A chi-square test for homogeneity, it tests whether the distribution of a categorical variable is the same, whether the distribution of proportions is the same for each of several populations. Okay, now we could also, if we were doing this with an experiment, we would say treatments as well, right? So if they were experimental treatments. But basically, are the distributions similar through the different populations? But a chi-squared test for association or independence, however you want to phrase it, it tests whether two categorical variables are associated in some single population. Again, look at the information you're given. Was there one sample? It'll be this kind of thing. Were there multiple samples? It'll be this kind of thing. Chi-squared test for association, chi-squared test for homogeneity. Sometimes the question could be presented in such a way that either test could feasibly be a good fit. Feasibly be a good fit. And you have a hard time telling. Often the way to tell is check where the sample came from. That's the big clue for you guys. If all of the data come from one group of people, it's a test for association or independence. And it's discussing variables within that one population. If the data comes from multiple groups, though, if there wasn't just one sample, there were multiple samples, it's got to be a test for homogeneity. I think that's, did I spell it geneity? Geneity, I think it goes like this. I think that's the big thing for you guys. Figuring out which test you're doing and then making sure you can write the hypotheses correctly. Page 747 is on scary movies and fear. I think that's so similar to the last one. I'm not going to go through this with you just to save time. I know I had a half-hour video in this chapter already for you guys. So I'm going to try and cut some time out. You guys could scan through that one. It's going to look very similar to the other stuff that you guys have seen. So I feel like I'd be repeating myself. Okay, last two things, and these are minor little topics. Grouping quantitative data into categories on page 750. You guys could kind of read through that. Here, I'll just show you what it looks like real quick without reading the whole thing. You can turn quantitative data like, what is this one about? Where do you live now? Where do you stay most often? Oops, that's not the right one. It's up here. Sorry about that. Quantitative data into categories. This one is about how much money do you make in your home? Well, that's definitely a quantitative variable. And this kind of chi-squared test is for categorical data. So here's the trick. Put the numbers into intervals, like make ranges and go how many people fit in that range as opposed to keeping track of everyone's actual salary. And if you do that, you can turn it into a categorical variable. So this idea right here just goes like this. It basically says by creating intervals for quantitative values to fall into, you can turn quantitative data into categorical data and just keep track of how many people fit in each range. Don't keep track of every single quantitative number. Then you can use a chi-squared test for that kind of thing. The cool and a little shady statistics trick. What if some of the expected counts are less than 5 and you're not supposed to do the problem? So this is the one about where do you live, and there's like I live in my parents' house, somebody else's house, I got my own place, group quarters. So there's some kind of compound with all your friends, I guess. That's a whole lot of data right there, and I would be happy to put that in a matrix and not find each individual cell. But when we look over here, we find out the two that are circled, the problem is the expected values aren't bigger than 5. So they went and found all the expected values. They're not bigger than 5, so I'm not supposed to do the test, right? We should quit and give up. Well, here's what they decided to do. You know what? Most people are in a parent's home or another person's home or their own place. This whole group quarter thing's a little weird, and the other thing is a little weird, like living in a van by the river. So, what they did is they just joined these two together. And if they just join those two together, is it on the next page? Nope, it's not on the next page, it's just on here. So, here's what they did. They got parents' home, like parents' home. They got another home, another person's home. Your own place, your own place. They got group quarters and other, but they just made it an other category. And what happened is the expected values jumped above 5. So it's a shady little trick, but it's doable. It basically says that if some of your expected counts end up being less than 5, you can cheat if you just combine a category or two. Just mash them together, it'll be all right. And that makes the counts bigger, and then your expected counts are bigger than 5. Go do your test. See what I mean? All right, guys. That's it for Chapter 11. We're done. So I'm going to put homework on sapling, I think, for this. And we'll get some practice with doing a full write-up as part of our review. And you should be ready to take the test. Hopefully it's not feeling too stressful. I think after all of the last ones, I think this one should go pretty well for you. So have yourself a good day. Do your homework on sapling. We'll talk soon.